Uncle Ojisan has done the impossible in being one of the first few isekai protagonists to escape and come back home. But he's also done something even more impressive in escaping the mega corporation hidden media vault, that being in Netflix anime jail. So what's Uncle Ojisan? Uncle Ojisan is about a man waking up from a 17-year coma, and his sister's son, Takafumi, coming to pick him up. Ojisan begins to ramble in a foreign tongue and reveals that he was transported to a magical world called Grand Bahamo. Okay, so who's Takafumi? Takafumi Takaoka is a normal 19-year-old guy who's about to let Uncle Ojisan live at his apartment, but only after realizing that he could make money off of his uncle's ability, mainly through YouTube ad revenue. When he first goes to pick him up, he can't understand the gibberish he's saying. Ojisan decides to translate to Japanese. So he's insane. Takafumi doesn't want to hear any more of this, and first proceeds to trauma dump that his mother and father have spent years arguing about what to do with him, with this being because of his high medical bills, ultimately leading to Takafumi's parents getting a divorce when he was a kid, leaving the responsibility to him. Ojisan is like, yikes, and writes it down in his pocket notebook, and soon erases his own memory, with this being the 70th time he's done something so bad he doesn't want to remember it. Ojisan moves on, and is like, hey, you want to see a cool magic trick? When he tries to perform the said magic trick, nothing happens, which makes Takafumi think, this is the mentally insane patient that made my family fall apart. I should leave him. And due to Takafumi coming to give him a harsh pill of reality, that being the unemployment papers, the intense stress activates his wild talker ability, allowing for him to knock over the water bottle, proving he knows magic. Ojisan is able to do this due to the deep desperation he feels, with Ojisan not wanting to get a job at his age. From this, Takafumi gets an idea. Hey, I have an idea. Can you do that magic stuff on command? Yeah, why? Great, I have a deal that can work for both of us. Come with me. Okay, you live here now. I'm going to help you get reacclimated to modern Japan, but you're going to use your magical isekai abilities to make us a boatload of cash. How much cash? Enough cash where you can buy a cell phone, a Sega Saturn, and all the classic games you want. But how are we going to do all of that? One word, YouTube. And that's how Uncle Ojisan became a YouTuber. Okay, cool. So who is Uncle Ojisan? Ojisan, later known as Shibazaki Yusuke, is an oblivious, aromantic, skeptical, stupid neat character that goes by multiple aliases in the anime. Orc-Face by the Elf, Wolfgun Blood by Mabel, Kurukitima by the hero in her party, and Virtual Elf Ojisan on YouTube. 17 years ago, when he was hit by a truck, it caused his consciousness to transfer over to another world, and now he's back in modern-day Japan in 2017. Ojisan was put in a modern template isekai world with legendary items, princesses, fantasy creatures, adventurers, and magical lore, but he's a terribly ugly otaku from the 90s. By their standards, he's seen in their world as a mutated species of ogres, with him naturally looking old like he is now, but when he was a teenager. So he looked like he was 34 when he was 17. He's crazy ugly to the point he's hunted and sold like a rare monster, but when he's sold, it's only worth 34 cents. And he's always seen as a threat, even after he saves people's lives. The only thing that kept him relatively sane over the years was his love of games. Most specifically, Sega titles and consoles, making him one of the only die-hard Sega fans still around. And also, he was understandably crushed when he learns that they lost the console wars. Uncle is stupid and smart at the same time, but is skeptical and can't tell the real world apart from video games, giving video game quotes, characters, and references like life lessons to other people in this isekai world, treating everyone as a stranger. Simply put, he doesn't care about you. He's also oblivious to the point that he can't recognize when he's breaking a social norm, like the time when he basically proposed to the elf to then pawning off the ring that he gave her in the next town, or him not having the concept of other people's boundaries, with him touching all over other characters in the show with little warning. But he doesn't have lewd intentions when he does this. With him being a aromantic character, he basically feels nothing most of the time, not recognizing that Elf doesn't hate him, but is actually being a tsundere to him, with the concept being invented in 2004 after he left on his isekai journey, that being in 2000. Cool, but who's this elf? Okay, so her name is way too long to pronounce, being this. That's the joke. By the end of the anime, she goes by Sue, but for now, she is known as Tsundere Elf to Takafumi and Elf for everyone else. Elf is simply the elf princess, currently an adventurer that Ojisan rescued from the poison dragon. Apparently, the poisonous dragon's fumes cause her clothes to melt. Elf is played by Tomatsu Haruka, who's an anime veteran, with her being involved in the anime industry since 2007, playing notable characters such as Lala from To Love Ru, Morgiana from Magi, and Asuna from Sword Art Online. You know, one of the most profitable animes ever. Her voice range in the show is quite surprising to me, cause I didn't expect her to be able to play a tsundere, but she does an amazing job of the classical archetype of the character. The tsundere elf acts as one of Ojisan's longest companions, with her being the most resilient character in the anime, because she always comes to the aid of this man who never appreciates her, and he's willing to just up and leave her, with Ojisan himself not trusting the girl, presuming that she's just a mean girl who's trying to kill him, and she spends a lot of the anime just following Uncle around, being labeled by both Takafumi and Ojisan as a stalker, with this mostly being Ojisan's fault for how he talks to her, with him leading her on, unknowingly. In the show, she becomes increasingly territorial, quick to be jealous, and paranoid. He'll give out more rings to other people. Off her name alone, you can tell that she gets very angry over Ojisan's actions. So he saves her, which then becomes a very awkward interaction. She heals him back to full health. She basically gets proposed to. After thinking they're gonna get married, Ojisan sells off her ring, gives her the money, and leaves. She's shocked, but still angrily follows him, has dinner with him. He grabs her to take her off back to his room, to only then get blue-balled and have the door slammed in her face, with him only needing her to guide him back to his room because he was drunk. After she has to cry herself to sleep, the next day he intensely sucks the poison aphrodisiac out of her. Later that night when she comes to sleep next to him, she gets multiple conflicting emotions as she sees a chained Mabel and Ojisan on top of her, with Mabel wearing the same ring that she has. I can't begin the process of what was going through her mind when this happened. She saves the girl, and Mabel proceeds to lock him in ice, and the two girls become friends, and clearing up what happened, which somehow makes the elf want to buy back her ring by any means necessary, solely because she sees Mabel as competition. So that's the elf. Okay, quick question. Who's Mabel? I'll make it quick. Mabel Ravel was treated like the fantasy trope of you must break the seal over this girl's heart in order to get a strong weapon to save the world, needing to give her clarity so she can move forward in her life. But instead of helping her with her problems, he ignores her and instead goes to slay the legendary beast without her, not needing the weapon her ancestors told her to pass down to the hero. So feeling that she has no purpose, she tracks him down. He opens her heart, telling her to do whatever she wants, but says her life of living alone in the ice wasn't a bad one. In fact, he knows about that lifestyle and would love to have that. So instead of telling her to explore the world and open up and meet new people, like, you know, the normal trope, he instead tells her to stay inside and be in need, and to keep the sword too, because he doesn't want it, making her depression spiral deeper into the abyss. With her now having this immense bloodlust and a soulless expression, tries to kill him. After the girl calms down, she explains her situation, that she has to find a new home, and she was given some really nice working options, but she rejected all of them. Why? Because she's unable to stand the idea of doing labor. Revealing that Mabel is a bum, like a serious bum, like willing to be a dog type of bum, like to her core is now a bum. From this point, he's able to melt her heart as he agrees with her life choice and begins to compliment her for like 4 minutes, making her sword wet, like it's a full stream down there. And then he puts a ring on her finger. She rejects it multiple times, and she's like sure that she rejected him. She was like, I'm sure, right? I'm pretty sure I rejected him. What's happening? How's this still happening? But he still insists that she have it, making her sit down because she's so confused. But after she finds out it wasn't because he wants to marry her, she gets mad and wants to kill him again. And you saw what happened next, leading to a truce with the elf, but still wants to keep the ring by any means necessary, with her saying it's gonna be her last resort if she can't find a home. With both her and the elf still warming up Ojisan with her body. From this point on, they separate, with her being so much of a slacker that she wakes up at 5 p.m. She eventually becomes a knight with full benefits, with it being the easy job she always wanted, but Ojisan messes up and gets her fired, with her becoming a homeless wolf, not willing to still sell the ring, then becomes a traveling bard, singing video game intros that Ojisan taught her. Like, the storytelling of Uncle Ojisan is interesting because I feel like it's one of the few animes that can pull off a modern-day episodic serial format. To start, an episode would start off kind of like a Family Guy cutaway gag, where something would remind Ojisan of his isekai life, with him, Takafumi, and Fujimiya needing a solution to the problem, or Takafumi being curious about something, making Uncle bring up a fascinating tale from his other world, where the nephew can't help but beg to hear the story, putting up a TV, a memory screen, and they would all begin to watch the show. When watching this show, it feels like Uncle is like a war veteran telling stories to his nephew, but instead of the nephew not being interested in hearing them at all, it's the other way around, because Uncle seems to be not interested of his own accomplishments. An episodic formula is basically a piece of writing or film consisting of a series of events, which often seem to not be connected. While watching his memories, the audience is reminded how none of this affects their daily lives, allowing them to be separated from it. Here, Takafumi and Fujimiya serve the same role of being shocked by Uncle's actions and how he responds to problems, but act as an outsider, / third-person perspective, / the audience's reactions. They don't tell him off and explain why he's wrong in a situation, making it feel like they're also just watching anime like us. And like us, they would treat it like a grand event to watch his memories, even skipping out on fried chicken night to watch him. So who's Fujimiya? Okay, so she's Takafumi's childhood best friend, who used to seriously look like a boy in middle school. After they reunite after so long, she has a crush on Takafumi, of which he's oblivious to, being the whole will they won't they trope, and she finds out about Uncle's magical abilities and becomes a part of the gang, and like them just begins to start watching his memories, being another adult hating censorship like the rest of us, praying to the gods to let them have uncensored content. She acts as a way the anime can introduce other human characters. When we go inside of his memories, it does feel like the show is following a more serial approach, as each episode we watch has a start and stop point, with us only picking up what happens next in the isekai world in the next episode, even though they begin in a very random way, with Takafumi acting as a bookmark, wanting him to show him what happens next. The show was able to already deliver on an interesting concept with repetitive but interesting characters, but this formula is what makes a show like this even more unique. But sadly, I don't think people are catching on to this thought, since the animes that Mal wants to compare it to are shows that don't even come close to what Ojisan is getting at or is even about. It's being compared to shows like Konosuba, High Score Girl, Fantasy Bishoujo Junku, Moonlit Fantasy, Sakamoto Desuga, Outbreak Company, Gintama, RPG Full Dive, Parapi, Kome, Kobayashi Dragon Maid, One Punch Man, Psyche, and ReZero Season 2, specifically Season 2. Out of all these shows, the only ones that really come close to what Ojisan is getting at are the comedies, being Gintama, Psyche, and Maid Dragon. With these being silly shows that like to parody the popular series in their genre, but like the show when they feel like it, they can be also serious and follow a structured fantasy world, with only Outbreak Company and slightly Konosuba being shows in Ojisan's same genre of isekai that like to do a similar thing to him. But still, an anime much closer to its concept is standing right in front of us, bringing me to my conclusion. This show is Devil's a Part-Timer reimagined, taking this show and making a new mental image of it, at least half of it. The last time I talked about Devil's a Part-Timer, I explained that the show isn't a parody at all of isekai, because it came at a time before there were any isekai tropes to parody, while Ojisan came after isekai was already established and now has the templates of whatever the tropes of the genre. Devil's a Part-Timer is about a guy coming from a fantasy world and living as a normal human in secret, surrounded by a group of friends who came from the previous fantasy world like him, and sure, they engage in epic battles of devils and angels, but in the next episode, Mal still has to go pick up his shift at McDonald's. Ojisan is a guy coming back from a fantasy world, living with his nephew and his nephew's childhood best friend, and the group wants to see his past adventures about his fantasy world, showing battles between him and monsters, a corrupt medieval government, dungeons, and mostly his isekai love life, which he's oblivious to. But they can still push pause and go back to their normal life, but he still needs YouTube ad revenue to live. In The Devil's a Part-Timer, there are multiple parts throughout the show where Mao has enough magical power to return home, but he chooses not to, feeling that there's more that he can learn in this world. With this decision making Ashia, Arushihara, Emi, and Suzuno stay with him, creating a line between them and Into Isla, with them only able to talk about the past, like a distant memory. But in the show, we do find other characters from the alternate world who come to attack them, forcing them to defend themselves and revert back to that fantasy world, which is different from Ojisan because there's still a connection, but the only way they're able to interact with the fantasy world as a memory, but not able to change anything. But what makes his memory so cool is that you can see everything that happens, and not just when he's conscious, like the time where he's able to hear a conversation even though he's in a block of ice, or able to zoom in from far away into a mountain or to see from a different angle, allowing the group to watch from all sides of every detail of the world, with Devil's a Part-Timer not allowing us to see anything from Into Isla, The show is just hilarious because of how Uncle is interpreting what's happening to him. Uncle is just so out of pocket, it's just so stupid. Just like how he turns into an ugly bastard and slaps everyone who disagrees with him. In this one scene, he stops a literal government mob from mistreating the hero's party by slapping them. Or how he just erases people's memories at a drop of the hat. This show is just great, and it sucks that it ended the anime in a very awkward cliffhanger. With Netflix mishandling of the show, the only way you can actually watch Uncle Ojisan is unfortunately through illegal means. Still, I'd say it's 3 out of 5. Lastly, like the video and go support the official release. Thanks for watching.